In life, we have moments of time to make a difference for someone in this world. We can either make that moment just this little moment in time, a blip on the graph of God's household plan for our life and someone else's, or we can really decide what's going to produce the most loving relationship for the long haul. There's always that person who wants to say that some relationships are for short term and others are for long term, and they quip those ideas because they want the power of being able to throw somebody out of their life. And that's really what it's like. I openly have to talk about something that happened to me recently that might not sound right to people until you hear the whole story. In life, we have moments of time to make a difference for someone, but I was literally standing outside of a shop late in the evening, looking for a simple place to sit down where there wasn't a lot of bugs, a lot of ants, and a lot of riffraff running amok below my rear end, and openly just trying to relax for under the evening starlight and moonlight. And all of a sudden, a man was sort of staring at me. And I didn't like that he was staring at me because I didn't like the fact that I was not alone anymore. I was trying to find a little solace in life. But in life, there is something we have to do sometimes, which is to find a place to be in solitude. So I simply said, okay, I'll handle this. I walked over and said, what is it that you need, sir? And I didn't get all that close to him, but he just was still looking at me, and he started to mumble a little bit, and I'm like, look, I can't hear you, man. So if you're going to stare at me, there better be a reason. Because in the men's world, in the men's speak of things, when a man stares another man down, there's a problem usually. And that's something I've learned a long time ago through accidental things that you do as a young lad. But as an old man, we have rights as old men over young men. And that's something that only old men tend to teach young men, and I learned from my father, who probably learned from his father, and literally all the men in the community that my father introduced me to. That when a man is good in his soul and he sees another man, he literally acknowledges him by nodding. It's typical that the younger man will somewhat nod to an older man or vice versa, depending on who's sort of in control of that moment of time. The challenge is that a lot of these infidels and foreigners who come into foreign lands don't really understand American traditional culture. They certainly don't have any concept of mismanners, which is something that many people will just kind of joke that a man like me would know about. But I had sisters, and my mother would often talk about that book that she had on the bookshelf teaching her home economic class. The reality is that Miss Manners would say there's a certain way to invite people to do things, there's a certain way to respond to people, there's literally a certain politeness that old world America did to ensure that we kept politeness, that we kept honor and regard for other people's time, talent, and treasures in our mind. I literally had a lot of work to do, and I was going based on a small amount of sleep, so I wanted to finish things up in the twilight hours. That is my prerogative to choose the time of day in which I'm going to work hard, and the other parts of the day in which I'm just going to bask in the sun, enjoy a water park, or just do nothing during the day while other people are monkeying around at work. And I hate to say it like that, but it sort of is like that for someone who changes their life and decides to do something else. When I'm talking about these things, I'm talking about real life, I'm talking about real love, I'm talking about real persons in my relationship pool. I'm talking about how people regard others, how people show other people the door inappropriately, when the Lord might have a different plan for them completely. That man made it sound like he was going to do something for me, that he was prepared to whip out his wallet and take me to a meal or something like that. Not that I was looking for a date from a guy like that, for sure, and certainly not from a man. But the reality is most men like me who've gone through this challenge of cybercrime and being cyber hacked to the ground are looking for a loving woman to say, hey, let's go get something to eat, and be my honor to be the treater on this one, and we'll see how it goes. But openly, that's just an old guy talking. When I've been treated before, it's always been in modest ways, and I'm always humbled by how the meekest of these are usually the ones who are the most generous of people. In truth, there are moments of time when we show who we are in the house of the Lord. And when I lost my significant other, my life partner, my spouse, if you will, I really went through a quick loss. I knew that there was a problem. I knew that she was sort of unhappy. I knew that we had been together a long enough time to decide whether or not it was going to make it, and I had some predilections to know that she might not return from her home country if she so felt like it. We also had a lot of immigration challenges, which a lot of people go through, and it gets exhausting because the laws are not written well for lovers and for family and people like that. I would have loved for her to have been able to stay here, but the marriage proposal didn't always work well. She wanted to wait till her son was older, and that's okay. The reality is she probably wanted him to give her away, and that is her prerogative. We found other lawful means to bring her here to do things, and we did all those things prior to our relationship becoming hot and heavy, intimate, and all the things that are not appropriate for any man to disclose on a national, potentially international, potentially world audiocast program. After all, YouTube reaches a lot of people in a lot of lands. The reality is that in my life, I had been with that particular spouse for a very long time, much longer than most of my professional friends had been with their own spouses and wives and partners. And that's the truth. The reality is, at that moment in time, I knew precisely who my mouth wanted to kiss next. And at that moment in time, I just made a decision that I wasn't going to try and date anybody. I wasn't going to try and look for anybody. I wasn't going to try to be literally improper with anyone other than the one that I felt in my soul had been sent into my life for a lot of reasons. You see, I'd prayed a profound prayer around the time of year 19, and I only will say that one time, because it's not anyone's business how that works in the overall structure of where we were, where we lived, where we were provided for by God, and openly He provided a lot for me. His blessings allowed me to live, to work, to have food, to have shelter, to have a vehicle I loved, and to have people in my life that I adored. And that was good. At one point in time, an incredible force of nature came into my life, and it changed my entire existence. It taught me all sorts of things. It taught me things that I never expected to learn at that particular stage of my life. But the reality is I had sort of made a decision. After my spouse left, after it was very clear that she wasn't returning, after all those things, I literally said, I've got to look over my life and think of who would I like to date, who would I like to spend time with, who would I like to be with really for the rest of my life. And I sort of started to summarize it up into one little idea. And that one idea became such a prevalent thought in my mind that I realized I had to make a shift in the way I was approaching that relationship, and I need to sort of gently and subtly attempt to say, I'm not sure where you are in the midst of your loss, in the midst of the loss of the divorce of your life, but at some point I'd like you to consider me to be a suitor in the future. Definitely people interfered with that opportunity. Everything was going pretty smoothly and pretty grandly until other people, possibly women friends of her and guy friends of mine, started to sort of infiltrate the ideology, the thought that we could potentially be good partners for each other. Now, in life, we have moments of time to do things for other people, to be things for other people, to just be good friends and play a little together and go places together and have meals together and enjoy family time together without a lot of hullabaloo about what's what and who's and what's going to happen and where it's going to go. And that's kind of what I was sort of looking for. To be with the one that was the easiest in my entire world to just be with. And I had sort of discovered that that was a slightly different person that I had had prior to that. Now, when I tell the story as a man, I want it to be clear that I'm not giving away all the details. I'm just articulating how my mind works about different types of situations. I prayed that profound prayer, an incredible individual came into my life, and then bam, wham, I was sort of ready after the loss of my spouse to be ready in love with someone else. The Lord's blessing, the Lord's love, the Lord's glow of how we care for someone flowed through me like the Force in Star Wars. I literally would light up like a Christmas tree, as I often said, in her presence, and I could just feel that warm fuzzy over my entire being all the time when I thought of her, when I did things to try and remind her how much she was deeply loved by people before it was quite ready for me to profess any love to her at all. You see, a man is very careful and thoughtful about how he pursues a second person in his life. Or after loss, he's going to go through that loss, he's going to go through the grieving stages, he's going to give himself the opportunity to feel those feelings of loss, and he's openly going to say, okay, I'm literally holding a phone in a parking lot. Sorry about showing you some bird crap on the floor, but men do that stuff. I'm also being overrun by ants running in and out of my pant legs, which makes it sort of difficult to continue the storyline. But my point is that when you live outside, that happens. And this is where God planted me. So I don't know if it's just to remind these people at this particular place that they need to do some more lawn care, but I don't know. But let's get back to the story. The point is that in life, I knew that there was only one mouth I wanted to touch mine after the longest time of only kissing one person for so long. That when it went to finding somebody new to love and someone new to hold hands with and someone new to romance with and someone new to walk with and someone new to talk with and someone new to dine with and someone's children to love on since mine was literally grown and gone, I recognized who that person was through the help of God. Through all the signs he kept showing me, all the birds that flew over when I got to see her again, and all the things that only a Lord in heaven can produce, that no human being has enough skill to do. The reality is that when I talk about putting my mouth on her mouth, I literally mean that simple kiss. I also was told pretty well in my soul that it was going to be a while before she was finished her own raging process, her own grieving process of her own little divorce that the Lord had sort of told me was going to happen when I walked through my kitchen. It was amongst some of my more profound prophetic gifts in the early days of my skill that I remember saying to the Lord, I love that girl, God. And the Lord saying, she will get a divorce. And I almost kind of fell over because I was walking through my own kitchen in the Arts and Design District where I lived, and I just couldn't believe it. But lo and behold, a few weeks later, that news came through. And she was sort of upset that I hadn't told her that, and like she wouldn't have believed me at the time, but that's okay. In life, we have moments of time to tell people the things and the messages we hear, and sometimes we're right on perfect with the money on what we hear from God's gifting and the spirits around ourselves in the angelic world and the realms that we learn about from the Bible and the works of old, and other times we just don't get it right. But in life, when a man is thinking about, I have been in love with the same person for more than 10 years and I'm not sure about going on with someone new, he's going to look to the one that he trusts the most, that he adores the most, that he likes the most, that he enjoys the most, that he delights in the most, that he laughs with the most, and that he thinks he might even love the most because of how he cries when she's gone. You see, in life we have moments of time to tell someone how much we love them, and when the moment is not right, a man has to wait. He must wait until the Lord says, now it's time. Take this moment right now to send that text. Take this moment right now to send that love tweet. Take this moment right now to clarify that those are my legs, not someone's phone in the video. Sorry, it's hard to hold a phone and do all this at the same time. But openly, I'm not in my home studio anymore. And some monster just destroyed a computer that a loving Marine just gave to me. So that was sort of odd, and I'm sure whoever did is going to feel hell to pay at some point from either God or that Marine. They have ways of finding that stuff out, no problem. The reality is what I'm saying is that in life we have moments of time to show someone how we feel, and a consistent message of I love you is what an honorable man of God's house will say. He will try different ways, creative ways, unusual ways, musical ways, talented ways, infuriating ways to try to say, woman, I am serious about this betrothal. I would like to marry you and then date you the rest of my life. What that means is that I'm madly in love with you enough to not need a lot of hot and heavy petting and kissing and all that I just would like that one honorary kiss that I've waited for such a long time. On my 50th birthday, I was utterly and utmost disappointed that I couldn't produce that one little simple peck on the mouth. It's really a shame, because it was sort of my hope that that would have occurred on my 50th day. It was sort of a day unlived for me, but that's okay. Someone else sort of ruined it for me, and that's okay too. But in life, we have that one mouth that we long to know what it's like. We long to know if it's okay with God, and we long to know if she feels the same way, but just is a little nervous about allowing something the Lord put in play to happen. You see, there's lots of people more handsome than me, lots of people more strong than me, lots of people more intelligent, more rich, more everything. But when a man says, "You, my dear, are the fortune of my life because of all I see you are worth to me in my soul and my heart and my mind," then how can I not be right in telling you how I feel? Regardless and irrelevant of how you might feel at this particular second of time. But I want to profess my love so that you know that you have a real suitor at hand, that you have a real man standing openly before you saying, regardless of what my health is, regardless of what my mental state is, regardless of what my physicality is, regardless of what my intelligence is, regardless of what my bank account has, regardless of where my home is, regardless of where I lay my head in the middle of the night, I am madly, passionately, and overly devoted to winning the heart, mind, and soul of you in the hand of matrimony, a partnership for the rest of my loving life, so that I may honor you all the days of my life, that I may hold you every night in bed, and that I may walk with you always hand in hand, opening doors, honoring you first, and giving you whatever power you feel you need so that you feel safe and secure with me at all times. I will protect our family. I will protect your life. I will give my life for yours. I did that once already when I was so forlorn over the loss. And openly the Lord said, put him back. He's not ready to go. But they knew how hard it would be, so God sent me back with a handful of angels, thankfully, on my backside. I also was required to buy a shirt with the number 2, a shirt with a, I can't even read the name of the damn company, Bija, or whatever the hell it is, Zija on it, and other things that I was led in the middle of Kentucky to, of all things, an outdoor sale by a bunch of people who were selling t-shirts and shorts for next to nothing, and the Lord said, give her more money, she needs it. So I said, okay, don't have a lot in my pocket, but here you go. And when God does that, you just do it. I bought a printer from a little old lady in the countryside of Crothersville where I visited, trying to find the house of my old friend Trish. And literally, I didn't want the printers, but God said, just buy them and we can give them to and donate them elsewhere. So I did. And I did donate them because they didn't have power cords. The little old lady didn't realize she needed to keep them with the computer. And that's okay, or the printers, and that's okay. And I don't like the top feeders anyway. But I thought I might use them, but it just never came to pass. My point is that when the Lord leads us to do loving and kind, honorable things, to tell someone how much we really love their heart, mind, and soul, and that's what we see of their life, we just try to do it in as many ways possible over a short period of time when the Lord says, now it's time to profess your love. That now the window, the opportunity is open just a little bit. Just put that little toe in the door right now. And let her know that no matter what's going on for her in her life, no matter how chaotic teenagers can be, no matter how ruined she might feel by another man's inability to love her, let her know that you stand proud and tall in the world of God, professing your love for her hand in matrimony. Now, the challenge of me posting this audio file will always be that the police force that had been hazing me and harassing me and doing their mobbing little sophisticated techniques, which the Lord is like, okay, just prepare for it, he's coming, like I have no skills at all, will literally try to erase my audio file, delete it, edit it, or do something monstrous like change my words in it. There is no intellectual property law that protects me is absolutely not true. There's no copyright license that protects me is absolutely not true. All of this is federal law that is protected of me. Freedom of speech as a reporter and a trained one from Indiana University Journalism School gives me the right to talk about any damn thing I friggin' want to, in any language I want to, in any tone I want to, and even in Howard Stone Day I want to, which I will do a little later, and you will not want your children listening when I cuss and swear in both languages. But openly, my plan is to make a joke out of something. And I hope he'll be honored in the process of regarding how he does his shtick. But the reality is that even a man of Christ can regard a man of Christ like him, who is so profane it's not even funny, but he does it to produce in people a challenge to their soul. Now let's get back to love, because that is the heart and fundamental foundation of my life. In all this time of 7 years, I have never met another gal her equal. I have openly, considerately looked as gently as a man looks who's not really interested in anything but her. And only one time in that period of 7 years did anyone even remotely turn my head to say, wow, the Lord has created an angel here in that particular being, who so lovingly just purchased a faith fob for me with a beautiful little child in the background. So I guess the reality is that a man as old as me is faithful, loyal, tried, and true. I never cheated on my life partner. I never looked at anyone else during those periods of time is predominantly true. But when I met the woman the Lord put in my life to change my life with the faith fob industry at my fingertips, I have to say the Lord knows what he's doing. So in moments of time, we have to decide if we're going to submit our hearts, minds, and souls to God's plan for our life, or are we going to fight it tooth and nail, create litigation abuse in people's lives, destroy them with lies in other sorts of situations, or are we going to protect those we love by not talking about it that much, by not showing photos that often, by not doing things altogether perfectly so that no one else gets harmed by the monsters of the world who think they have rights and licenses to other people's bodies, hearts, minds, souls, and love accounts that the Lord prepares for us. In life, we have moments of time to say, I love you. And I can say it in a lot of languages because my first gal was an opera singer that nobody had the right to know about, but somebody put me in a play with today, which I could have smacked them for. But the reality is, I will say it. Te quiero, te amo. We got a plane going overhead, so I'm going to have to pause for a moment. Ik liebe dich. Saranghe. Boaini. Aishtiru. And the list goes on because I learned those words long ago, and I always often thought that, wouldn't you know it, it's a damn military plane that's been destroying my life. Now, in life, we've got moments of time to make a difference for someone, and I just have said, I love you in a bunch of languages, and I've literally professed that information to someone several times in my life, not at all, only once to the woman who I stayed with for most of my life, only once to a gal in college who was literally my girlfriend for 4 years, and only once now to the third person that I have loved like this. Outside of that, I had a soul keeper that I loved very much and I still care for, but she is a married woman with too many children for me to deal with. So let's get real. When a man like me of old ways, old magic, old paganism, old Christianity, old Jesus Christ magic, and old everything says, I love you, I mean it. The rest of you can go to hell if you don't like my audiocast files. I don't give a shit. I'm trying to win the heart, mind, and soul of the most incredible woman I've ever met on the face of this damn planet. And if you don't like it, then you're not man enough to win one for yourself. So go to hell, you fucking assholes who keep stealing things out of my property room, taking things out of my bags, ruining my altar items, which is a violation of First Amendment rights to have religious freedom, and go to hell if you think I won't beat you to the fucking ground if you ever touch my life again. But that's what a man says. But that was not the goal of this audio cast. The goal of this audio cast was to talk about mouth to mouth, and I only wanted one mouth on my mouth after the loss of my lifelong love. To be a new gal who has a mind like no other, a heart fierce as a tiger, and frankly, when she left me, I had major roaring problems. Apparently it's Air Force Day at the local air base nearby, but anyway, life is not a bowl of chocolates because I'm allergic to them would be my response, but life is about giving people second chances, opening up something you don't know anything about and saying, I'll give this a whirl for a little while to see how it fits me and whether or not God shines through me to love someone else enough to go, wow, I totally missed out on this one. Thanks for listening. This has been Blake Ensign of Magic and Mayhem Audiocasting, looking for life, love, liberty in America where we are entitled to this by our birthright. And there are people who think they have the right to take it away. And that's what we're fighting for every single day as we move into a new political climate, consulting the world about how we feel about our rights in this land of ours. Thanks for listening.